Mark Rogers TV with instant analysis with Dabo Sweeney at the podium at the Fiesta Bowl, talking about how happy he is over and over and over. And who cares what's coming out of his mouth at this point? It's excusable considering how elated he has to be about his team's performance, defeating Ohio State 31-0. So the Buckeyes were a 3 to 3.5 point favorite. This we thought was going to be a great game, was going to be the game that Alabama and Washington was not. And if anything, it wasn't maybe as close as the first semifinal game. And we'll get to the semifinal games and what's happened to the college football playoff over the past 3 years in regards to bad football or mismatches since 2014. But let's talk about Clemson first of all. The defensive performance was dominant. It was exceptional. We know the offensive issues that Ohio State's had this season, particularly against the likes of Michigan and Penn State, that don't have the kind of front and the kind of athleticism up front that Clemson does, but still have very strong defensive fronts, and Ohio State could not move them out of the way. Basically couldn't protect J.T. Barrett, and that's when the Buckeyes have had issues, even against Northwestern. They didn't score many points and couldn't move the ball well. Against Michigan, until the final two drives of the game in regulation, they couldn't move the ball, and they couldn't move it from possession number one. Deshaun Watson threw 15 interceptions during the regular season, and it appeared as though Ohio State's ball-hawking defense and secondary in particular might prove to be a difference. First offensive play of the game for Clemson, Gary and Conley with an exceptional play on Mike Williams' interception put Ohio State in prime field goal range at least. Tyler Durbin, who was near perfect through the first 11 games of the season, 12 of 13 field goals, missed two, what could have been crucial kicks against Michigan, and he missed these two in the first half against Clemson. So Ohio State had to be somewhat deflated considering that they could have had points on the board early against Clemson, and they failed because of their field goal kicker. So it could have been 3-0 Ohio State. It could have been a 7-6 game. Ohio State with two missed field goals. The defensive front was exceptional. Michael Jordan, the left tackle or guard, I don't know what position he was playing tonight. He has been at left tackle, and then I think that they moved the left guard out to tackle after he was injured on the first series with an ankle, and that proved to be somewhat critical as well. Demetrius Knox was so taken back by the moment that his first play in the game in relieving Jordan, if you saw the replay, he actually didn't come out of his stance on a third and short play that proved costly because Ohio State did not convert the third and short play, and then they missed the field goal, and Knox stayed in his stance, and the center, Billy Price, actually had to push him, or Pat Elflein actually had to push him to get him started. So it was that kind of night for Ohio State and getting manhandled all over the place in this one. Actually, if we were giving game grades, this is easy. Ohio State gets an F on offense. J.T. Barrett did about as well as he could, but he even made some bad throws. So when it was still some semblance of a game at 17-0, he had Curtis Samuel for a touchdown, and he missed him. And the ball was tipped, and it turned into an interception. Barrett played okay, but much like Jake Browning, he completed passes. I believe he was 19 of 33, but only about 130 yards passing for Barrett. So it shows that Ohio State couldn't throw it downfield, and even when they threw it in space underneath, Clemson defenders were just on him that quickly and not missing tackles. Farrell, the defensive tackle for Clemson, was out of his mind. Tremendous. May have been the player of the game. I'm sure that went to Deshaun Watson, but I don't know that he necessarily earned it. Benjamin Victor came into the game and actually caught what was a deep throw for Ohio State, because the passing game was limited tonight, as it's been all season since the Oklahoma game. Victor caught a slant, and they should have went back to him. He disappeared. We didn't see him forever until sometime in the fourth quarter when Ohio State was hopelessly behind. But Benjamin Victor was a highly sought-after recruit freshman who needs to get some playing time, because it appears as though he might be a playmaker for Ohio State in the future. Another play that was a backbreaker for the Buckeyes was when it was still 17-0. So it's probably not a winnable situation, especially with the offensive performance, but still logically with plenty of time left, they had Clemson down inside their own 5-yard line. They had a 3rd and 19, and Wayne Gallman ripped off a 22-yarder to push to the first down, and that had to deflate Ohio State. Ohio State's defense played well. They certainly played better against Deshaun Watson than Alabama's defense did last year. They picked him off twice. Malik Hooker made an exceptional pick in the end zone coming from the other side of the field. And generally, the run game was contained for the most part until it got out of hand. So don't look at the stats, even though we'll rip off 470 yards for Clemson, 215 for the Buckeyes. And the Tigers had 24 first downs to Ohio State's 9. But Ohio State's defense gave a B effort. They certainly were making tackles. They played well. They just wore out. The constant 3-and-outs by the Ohio State offense, which earns the F grade, is what happened there. Anything else of note? Ohio State, too many plays on the perimeter. So they were trying to get the ball outside to Curtis Samuel, and this Clemson defense was too quick and too fast, and Ohio State was not containing the edge. They were not sealing off the edges to get those kind of plays to work. And they were hitting a few plays straight at the Clemson defense. So think Mike Weber, the first couple times he got the ball, he hit it for 5, 10, 12 yards straight up the middle when he could keep a handle on the ball, and JT Barrett as well. But Ohio State continued to call plays to the perimeter. They would have a nice pickup on first down. They would have a 2nd and manageable, 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5. Then they throw a backwards pass off to the flank, and they continued to do that, and it wasn't working. Mike Weber, I know that he fumbled twice, but he needed to be more part of this offense. Guy's got 1,000 yards in the Big Ten, and he had 1 carry in the first half for 5 yards. And by the time they got him the ball again and he started picking up a little bit of yardage, the game was over. So didn't love the game planning for Ohio State, but that's not what lost the game. Clemson won the game. They were the better team by far. Now, if these teams play 10 times, does Clemson win 31-0 a bunch of times? No. But they're the better team, and they got the job done on this night. Ohio State, the youngest team in college football. So they should be back. Consider the coach, consider the recruiting base and the resources, and this particular group coming back. Ohio State will be fine for 2017 and beyond, with Oklahoma coming in for a game in Columbus on non-conference. But in the immediate landscape at Alabama and Clemson should be an interesting matchup in Tampa. The Crimson Tide should be about a touchdown favorite from what I hear. So again, we'll set it up all week as we typically do, and would love to hear from you on Alabama Clemson, or this Buckeyes lack of effort or lack of execution, I should say, or the first semifinal game, which we detailed as well, Alabama 24-7 over Washington, right here on Mark Rogers TV.